Hey there, Nate Urandi, Orion Training Systems. Um, you ever wake up with what I'm going to call frat party hair? Well, I did this morning after a couple days of denying it, and it was time for a haircut. So I let my wife take the scissors to it, and we'll figure out tomorrow what it looks like. But it's definitely going to be better than it was when I woke up this morning. Uh, Interesting times we find ourselves in, right? Who knew that this is going to be the state of the world that we're in? It's left me with Costa Rica on the brain, the hat as opposed to the OTS hat, and then obviously the T-shirt with the national symbol, just to surround myself in our happy place, given that you know it's hard to do anything outside the house. Um, Speaking of what's going on, this is not a video about telling you what to do, what not to do, what's right, what's wrong. There's a risk versus reward continuum that everybody finds himself or herself on, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's what's your level of comfort with that risk versus reward, and it's also based on where you live, with some areas being more open, with the ability to get outside and move around, where others are more of a complete lockdown. So you're also controlled and constrained by where you live to a degree. But what this is about is, you know, racing is not going to happen in 2020, is my belief. I just don't see it. There's way too many variables to take into consideration before things are opened back up for group gatherings. And again, it's less about what somebody believes and more about just the reality of the situation. But when racing does open back up, I see it starting on a local, more grassroots type level. For example, your local 5K or 10K, before it opens up to national events, which cut across in the US state borders, and then international events where people are going on planes and going to these races like Ironman or the Tour de France or a major marathon, you name it. The Olympic Games, which obviously were pushed off a year, and so on. There's so many factors that have to go into play before those sorts of things are considered safe and responsible to open back up. So I don't see the Tour de France happening in August, September. I don't see how the NBA season is going to start or finish, I should say, or baseball or even the NFL is going to be pushed off to a degree. So it's going to be interesting to see how it ultimately plays out. But from an endurance sport perspective, don't count on any racing this year. Which leads me to the crux of what this is about, which is, my suggestion and what I'm doing with my athletes is we're laying off specificity. This is normally the time things would be ramping up towards early season racing, and we'd probably be starting to tip into specific training for that first key race that would happen in, say, June, July timeframe. So we're backing off that. There's no reason to be in race specific mode right now. It's a fool's errand for anybody, to think that now is a time to start trying to massively increase threshold or get super sharp as you would for a key race. There's no need for it, because if you're doing this, you can only hold that peak for a few weeks before this starts to happen. So why would you want to be doing this now when the only outcome of this is that? So instead, pull back, relax. This is the time to work on some weaknesses. This is the time to just enjoy movement in general, fitness. If you can get out, or if you're comfortable getting out, certainly go for a bike ride or a run or a hike or something that is certainly going to promote strength and well-being. But don't worry about how far you go, how fast you go, what your average power is. All those things which are, more saved for race-specific mode. Why can't you go out for a 2-hour ride get home and instead of crawling in your house, just be energized by it right now. Like there's enough heavy stuff going on in the world that we don't need the rigidity of training. Yes, work out, but try to ease off the training mode, if you will. Stepping up the strength training is huge now. This is typically when people stop it or pull back from it. So why not instead use this time to double down on that, and really work on some body imbalances or strength imbalances, things like that. And last but not least, don't panic. There's no reason to panic with what's going on. Things will open back up eventually. There will be a return to racing eventually, but not now and not in the foreseeable future. So don't panic that you might be losing fitness. Don't panic that if you're a triathlete, that you aren't able to get in the water. That will come back. The feeling will come back, and the fitness that you are retaining right now will apply to that and accelerate the path back to feeling comfortable in the water again, is just one example. So I'll leave you with that. Again, the sky's not falling. Things will get back to normal eventually, and it'll happen in an iterative, methodical way when it's responsible to do so. So until then, enjoy life as much as you can. Enjoy the exercising as much as you can, and just try not to worry. You're losing a lot less fitness, if any, compared to what you probably think is going on an emotional and mental level. So sleep better and take care of yourself, and we'll see you on the other side. Happy training.